Okay, so we're going to look at how you can create a PDF of your submissions. This is typically something you want to do if you're creating an abstract book from your submissions. I'm going to take you through the steps involved in doing that. In Lineup Ninja, there's a few steps to this process because we're going to make use of some Microsoft Office tools to do this. So there isn't just like a button you can click to generate a PDF from all your submissions, unfortunately. Anyway, let's dive into it and see how you can do it in Lineup Ninja. So I've got my demo event. It's called Content Portal Demo. And if we go to my submission flows, that's where my submissions are all going to be. I've got a few different ones here, but I want to look at my call for speakers because it has actually got some submissions. And in here I can browse and see I've got 1 in submitted and I've got 11 in accepted. And these are the ones that I want to include in my PDF. It's likely you're going to have a lot more records than this, but this will just illustrate the process. So they're the ones I want to export. Now I need to figure out how to get that data out of Lineup Ninja and get it into a document. So we're going to use submission reports. So the overall steps are configure the report and save it, select the submissions that we want to include in that report, run that report. That's going to give us a spreadsheet. We're then going to open a Word document, which is going to pull all the data from that spreadsheet using mail merge tools. And that's going to create a document where each section or page perhaps has got one of these submissions in it. And then from that, once you've got a Word document that's formatted, you can then create your PDF. So that's the overall process. So define the report, run the report with the submissions you want, use that spreadsheet to feed data into a Word doc. From that Word doc, generate your PDF. Okay, so we're going to start with submission reports. And in here, I'm just going to create a spreadsheet report. And by default, it's got at least 3 worksheets for the submissions themselves. So we've got this combined overview sheet, which has got both the submission, the session, or it might be your abstract data, and then the speakers or authors data as well in the same worksheet. There's then one sheet which is just for speakers, another one just for the submissions or the sessions or abstracts, if you like. If you want, you can also include sheets for your review scores and all the rest of it. But for the purposes of what I'm going to do, I just want the combined overview sheet. So I'm going to go through all these and say, because by default it will include all of these other ones, I'm going to say do not include this sheet to all of these. You don't have to do this, but it just keeps your spreadsheet a bit tidier and you're not exporting loads of data that you're not interested in. So I'm going to do that. Tables, I don't think there are any tables, but anyway, just for the sake of completeness. So this is the only sheet in my spreadsheet, the only worksheet that's going to exist in it. And I want to include this sheet, but actually I want to include it with a custom selection and order of columns. That's because in my submission flow on the form, I was asking quite a lot of questions, like things like dietary requirements and demographic information about my speakers. And I don't want to include that in my export. So I'm going to go in here. When you choose this custom selection and order of columns, then you'll see these are all the fields and you can choose which ones to include and which ones not to. I do want my submission title. I don't want the submitter name because my form is asking for each of the speakers' names. So the submitter may or may not be one of the speakers. Anyway, so submitter email, I don't care about that. Same with submission stage. I don't care if it's draft or whatever. I don't care about the created or updated dates. I don't think I care about labels. I definitely don't care about the promo video stuff. And I don't care about the review stages. So again, I'm just going to disable all of these things, which otherwise would appear on that worksheet. I might leave submission number in. Each submission gets a unique number. Submission ID, that's an internal ID. I don't need that. Speaker IDs, same thing. Review IDs also. Stage transition dates, that's just a list of the dates when it moved from draft to submitted and so on, so I don't care about that either. So I do want some session details and I do want speaker details. Let's drill into each of these to see what I've got the choice of. So here I've got what is the title of your session. Now that's basically probably going to be the same as this submission title. because submission title is taking its name from the answer to this question. So actually I can disable this as well. I'll include that. So session title, session description, I want to include that. If this was a scientific conference, that would probably be, maybe paper title and abstract. I also asked for intended audience and format. You may or may not want those. Let's say I'm going to not put intended audience in because I don't want to, but I am going to choose format. So for my event, that would be things like presentation or panel discussion and so on. Which conference theme is the session most relevant to? Yeah, I might want to include that. So which track does it belong to? And then do you need any of these resources to deliver the session? No, that's more of an operations thing. So it doesn't need to go in the PDF. Right, what information do we want about the speakers? So definitely if you're doing a scientific conference, you're probably going to want to include title because that's going to have things like doctor, professor, and so on. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to leave that out for this one. I do want the speakers or authors' first name and last name. I don't want to put their email address in the PDF or their phone number or their LinkedIn URL. Do I want their job title? Yeah, let's leave it in, and who they work for. And I'm not going to put their biography in there. No, I'm not going to put the headshots or which country they're from or which... So that's what language is the speaker primarily going to use, not necessarily what language is this session going to be in, because it's under the speaker details. I'm going to leave that out because it's potentially a complicating factor for what I'm trying to demonstrate today. And this is all the demographic stuff I mentioned. I'm not going to put that in. Okay, so it's pretty simple. We've only got a few fields: first name, last name, job title, company, and then session title, description, format of the session, and which track does it belong to. So I've got eight tracks, something like that. Now, for some of these submissions, I happen to know that some of these are panels that have been submitted. So there are going to be multiple speakers. This would also be pretty common for a scientific conference where you'd have multiple authors. When it generates the spreadsheet, it's going to include these details for all of the speakers. We'll have a look at that in a minute when you generate the report. Okay, I think that's all right for now. We'll find out if it's not. Let's save that. And once it's configured it, I'll give it a slightly more interesting name, actually. Let's call it my PDF export. And then I'll remember what it's for. Okay, so if I run it now, just from here, it will run that report and it will include all the submissions. But I don't want to do that because let's go back to my list of the other submissions. So it's call for speakers. And so you might remember I said I've got 11 accepted and one which has been submitted but haven't accepted it yet. And I only want to include the ones which have been accepted. So how do we do that? Fortunately, I want to include all of the ones that are accepted. So I can just go onto the accepted tab, click select all, and I can go to my actions drop down from here. I can then scroll down and I should find run report for submissions. If you've configured multiple different reports for different things for your submissions, you will see a list of all of them down here. I've only got one, so it's the only one that you can see in here. Okay, so I'm going to hit the name of the report I want to generate, and it's off doing that, and it will take me back to the report page, and it's now run that report. It's got a little timestamp name. Okay, I'm going to download that. There it is. Here we go. So we'll notice something about this. The first row is the questions that I asked on my submission form. Let's have a look at these columns. First 4 columns: what's the title of your session? What's the description? What's the format? And which track does it belong to? That's the session columns. We've then got the speaker columns. So first name, last name, job title, company. And then where you've got multiple speakers or authors, it just repeats those columns. So then we've got first name, last name, job title, company. And then for some of them we've got 3 speakers. So it's first name, last name, job title, company. Oh, and there's the submission number. I left that in as well. Yeah. There's no limit to this. So, I've worked on a scientific conference where we had like 10 co-authors for some papers, and you would just get 10 sets of those columns. It would just continue for as many speakers as there are. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. We've got a nice, simple bit of data there, which we can now put into a Word document or create a Word document that will pull it all in, and then we can style that Word document as well. So let's go over to Microsoft Word. So in here, I've basically got a brand new document, and I'm now going to do a mail merge with this. There are probably going to be better tutorials on how to do a mail merge out there on YouTube. Let's just see how we get on. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is select recipients. So because mail merge was basically designed for sending out mail to lots of different people, and it would have fields in there that would then be personalized for each recipient. That's why it uses this language of like recipients. But essentially what we're doing here is connecting the data in the spreadsheet to the Word document. So let's go to an existing list and find there it is. So it's going to give me some words and say this file needs to be opened with the Excel workbook text converter, blah, blah, blah. Just say yes. So it's picked that up. It's found that spreadsheet has got this combined overview worksheet. Cell range, you can leave this blank for the entire worksheet. Click OK. So that's connected the data in my spreadsheet to this Word document. You can see it's told me some stuff here. You can filter recipients, but I want all of them, so I'm not going to do that. What I want to do instead is decide which of those fields I'm going to put in. So if I open this, there's a drop-down list, and you can see here that it's picked up those column headings, and these are basically the questions. Originally, these are the questions I asked on my Lineup Ninja form. Okay, so the first one, what is the title of your session? In fact, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to give that a title. So let's say I'm going to put like a heading in here in my Word document, and let's make that bold and let's just make that a bit bigger. So title, what else do I want to add? Description, and you might put abstract in there or something like that. And I'm going to say speakers as well. Okay, so title. Let's go back to mailings. So now I want to insert one of my merge fields. So what's the title of your session? That's going to go there. So you can see what it's done. It's basically put this as a placeholder in there. Description, same thing, insert that. Describe your session. Track, we're going to put that in line for this one. In fact, let's see if we can just make that, let's make that smaller again and not bold. So let's make that 12 and not bold. And also I want this to not be huge and bold as well, because that's where my description text is going to go. So, and we'll make that 12. And, oh yeah, let's make let's make the title that format. In fact, get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that actually as well. Okay, format. What have I done here? I've got this wrong because I've put format on my track. I want the track there. So back to my merge fields. Which conference theme? Okay, and we don't want that to be bold and enormous. So you're probably getting a flavour by now that this is what the experience of doing this yourself will be. You'll be making all these like different decisions about stuff as you go along. Okay, now I want to have a list of speakers. So I'm going to insert my merge fields. Now, you'll see what it's done here where you've got several speakers for the sessions. It's got the name of the field, first name, last name, job title, and so on. Then when it gets to the second chunk of speakers, in the spreadsheet, the column heading for the next set of speakers will say first name, last name, and so on. But in here, in the mail merge, it's identified them separately. So it's put a number at the end. So you can identify which columns they actually relate to. So I'm going to do first name. Let's say that we want this a bit bigger than 12. Want their name a bit bigger, but we don't want bold. Okay. Okay, so first name, and then we're just going to add all those fields in now. Last name, and then I'm going to add a space to go between these job title and maybe I want to say job title at company, like so. Now, some of these submissions have got one speaker, some of them have got two, some have got three. And what I want to do, I want to put a comma between the speakers. So I'm just going to put a comma in here. And then I'm going to add all the same fields for the next set of speakers. I'm going to come back to this comma, but for now I'm just going to add my next speaker, first name, space, last name, space, job title, space, and so on. And another comma there. And same thing for the third speakers as well. And company or organization. Okay. Now, as I said before, some of these submissions have got multiple speakers and some haven't. If I put a comma there, what's going to happen when I've only got one speaker is it'll put a comma on the end and then there's nothing following it. It's also going to put that comma after that one. So I'll just have two commas. And that's going to look a bit weird. In fact, we can preview how it's going to look now by going up to preview results. And if you do that, you can see it's now picked up session title and session description. And it's got my track, the format, and the list of speakers. And in this case, we're all happy because we've got three speakers. To see the next record, you can click this next record thing. So you can see what it's done is it's picked up all that data, and basically on each of these pages, it's created a new page with that data in it. And this is styled according to however you want to style it. But I do want to come back to my little commas because like on this one, looks a bit weird with these two commas. So I'm going to come off the preview and go back to this view. There's something we can do here, which is you can select this little bit of text. So I've got my little comma, I've selected it. You can go to rules under here, and I'm going to say, what I want to do is like, if there's another speaker, show the comma. If there isn't another speaker, then don't. So what I need to do an if then else. So I'm going to say if then else. So if first name 1, so my second speaker's first name. So if first name 1 is not blank, then I know that there is a speaker there. So I want to show the comma. So there's the comma. Otherwise, insert this text, blank. Okay. So that comma has now disappeared. And the reason it's disappeared is because this preview is still kind of in effect. So it's still applying this rule as if we were looking at that record where it only had one speaker. So I know that this rule is working. We'll come back and look at the preview so we can double check it. Okay, same thing again. I've got another comma and I want to apply exactly the same rule. But in this case, I want to say if first name 2, so my third speaker, if first name for the third speaker is blank, sorry, if it's not blank, and then I want to insert this comma. Okay, I think that's all we need to do. So yeah, if we go back to preview results, there we go, Jackie Dow, Chief Marketing Officer at Market Masters. If we go back to this one, Jonathan Doe, Brandshake, commas there, Jack Doe, CEO, we love the trees, comma, great. So this is all working how I expect. There's a lot more you can do with this sort of formatting and how you can make all this work, but that's the kind of basics of how you get the data. You generate your report in Lineup Ninja, create it as a spreadsheet, and then you can link it to your Word document, use these mail merge tools to basically create this formatted document. I'm previewing all this, I'm happy with it, it looks good enough for what I want. So now go to Finish and Merge, and that will create the final document. So edit individual documents. That's the only option I seem to have. Great, so that's not actually what I want because I need to add a new line at the end of each record. At the moment, they're all just running on like this. So maybe let's just close that document. Nah, let's delete it. So I'm back at my kind of master document, if you like. One thing I could do is, let's insert a page break. Finish and merge. There you go. So you've got each submission on its own page. Anyway, like I said, there's lots more functionality there in Mail Merge. Once you've got your document like this and you're happy with it, you can then create a PDF from it because it's a Word document. So I think that's as easy as save as. Save as a PDF and just export it. There you go. You've got a PDF of all your submissions in Lineup Ninja. Anyway, hopefully that explains the process. Any problems, get in touch with support and we will try our best to help you. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.